Hey, what's going on, guys? It's HawksNest here, back with another Call of Duty mobile video. Now, before we even get into the video, first of all, this right here was because of my dumb dog. So I know it's probably going to stick out a little bit. It is quite the cut. It doesn't look that bad on the camera, actually, but it is actually quite deep. But yeah, stupid dog did that. Let's not even worry about that. Today, what we're talking about is the Epic AR perk. And the reason we're actually doing this video is because I've gotten a ton of questions about this perk. A ton of people are always asking, is it pay to win? What does it do exactly? And I just wanted to kind of go over it and let you guys know exactly what it does. And also what ARs it's actually kind of better on, I guess. What ARs you should definitely use this perk on. Like, you should definitely try to use a Epic AR. And what ARs maybe you should go with a different colored variant for a different perk. I also want to let you guys know I'm only going over the Epic AR perk today. There are obviously other weapon perks I could go over, and I plan on doing that in a separate video. I might actually group up like all of the perks into a part 2 where I literally just go over every single other perk. But this perk is a little bit more complex, I guess, and a lot of people are always asking about it, so I thought I'd make it its own dedicated video. So if you guys do ever enjoy this video, make sure to drop a like and a sub down below. We're actually shooting for 400 and then 500k subscribers on this channel, so if you guys want to help me on that journey, a subscription would mean a ton. Also, I am hosting a 1v1 tournament right now. If you guys want to get more information, there will be a link down below if you guys want to participate in that. But anyway, without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into the video and explain exactly what this perk is. Okay, so this perk is actually very simple in what it does, but I do want to break down how it affects certain guns, because again, it is the same across all Epic ARs, but a couple ARs will have a greater benefit because of it. Basically, what it does is it increases your range by 10%. And again, this is across all Epic ARs, but now we're going to go ahead and break down exactly how this or what this means for certain ARs. Because 10% to one AR might be really different to a different AR, and there are a couple other things I want to explain to you, so let's just go ahead and get into all of that. So first, let's go ahead and look at a graphic basically illustrating how damages and ranges actually work in this game, and then we'll explain how the 10% actually affects the range. Okay, so first off, let's just go ahead and look at a chart of the HVK's damages and ranges. So basically, the way damages and ranges work within this game is a gun will deal a certain amount of damage up to a certain range, and then it'll deal a different damage up to a different range, and then another damage up to a different range, and it could go on up to like multiple times. But for the HVK specifically, it will deal 3 damages: 24, 17, and 16. It will deal 24 damage up to 31 meters, and then 17 damage up to 50 meters, and then 16 damage from 51 meters and beyond. So essentially, when it gets a 10% boost, it's like stretching this entire graph 10% larger, which means that each range that I said will just be 10% larger. So for example, instead of it going from 24 damage to 31 meters, it would be 24 damage up to 34.1 meters. And then it would be 17 damage up to 55 meters, and then anything after that will deal 16 damage. And just to let you guys know, even though the chart cuts off right around like 65 meters, the damage will just be the same everywhere after that. So if you went to 1,000 meters away, the damage will still be 16, but obviously because the chart's not going to be, you know, that long, we just cut it off around 65 meters because most guns won't go beyond that. As in, there won't be a new range tier beyond that point. So that is what it does to all ARs, and if you guys were actually curious, this 10% range effect is the exact same thing as the long barrel attachment on SMGs. But obviously ARs don't have a long barrel attachment, but anyway, what this means is that Epic ARs literally have a long barrel attachment built into the gun. Now, obviously other rarities of ARs have a different perk, but most of those perks, in my opinion, don't equate to a attachment, whereas this literally has the equivalent effect of an actual attachment. Again, the other perks are actually kind of beneficial, but again, if they actually were a attachment, I probably wouldn't use them. This is the only time I would consider using this perk on a gun, I guess. So now that you understand what this Epic perk actually does, let's go ahead and go over the different ARs, and let me explain what ARs are the best with this perk and what ARs are actually the worst, and which ARs you should probably use a different perk with. The way that I said that makes it seem like you can change perk. You can't actually change the perk on a weapon skin, but you could just use a different weapon skin with a different weapon perk. Okay, I'm not going to go in depth on how exactly I got these numbers because it would be kind of complicated to explain, and I know a lot of people don't really care, but essentially what I did is I measured how much benefit every single weapon actually gains from the Epic range perk, and I decided to rank them from top to bottom, and the number you're about to see is actually the increased in damage ranges. It's kind of hard to explain exactly what I mean, but if you think about it this this way. If a type 25 goes up to like 10 meters, and then you have the epic perk and it goes up to 11 meters now because it's a bonus 10%, that's going to be 1 meter of gained range essentially. But then if you had a gun that went up to 50 meters, and then because of the epic range perk, it gets 10% bonus, so it goes up to 55 meters, that's going to be a bonus of 5 meters. And obviously guns have multiple range tiers, so those will continue to stack up the more range tiers a gun actually has, or the longer the range tiers are. So let's go ahead and look at that. Now this number isn't the most important number. There's actually one more number after that we're going to look at. But anyway, this is going to be the increased range in terms of the damage. So as you can tell, the gun that actually gains the most benefit in terms of meters of damage or whatever, the M16 actually gains 10.5 meters of bonus damage. Now I also think the M16 is the best gun with the epic range perk because the M16 is very reliant on you actually hitting a one burst, which essentially means killing a person in one burst. And normally you can do this up to 25 meters, but with a epic or purple M16, you can actually do this up to 27.5 meters. So as you can tell, that extra 2.5 meters is a nice little added benefit. Now, once again, this will basically just be how many meters you get boosted damage, essentially, because at certain ranges, normally you do this much damage, but because the range is boosted a little bit, you'll do a little bit more damage. Now, this is just the damage, but if we want to break this down a little bit further, we can look at the time to kill. If you guys are wondering what time to kill is, essentially the way you find time to kill is you look at the damage of a gun, and you see how many bullets you'd actually need to kill someone with that damage. So, for example, if a gun is 25 damage, that means you need 4 bullets to kill someone, because 25, 25, 25, 25 will equal 100 damage, which is a kill, which means it would be a 4-shot kill. But if the gun just went down to 24 damage, all of a sudden it becomes a 5-shot kill. Then after you factor in how fast the gun actually shoots, you'll get a mathematical time to kill, which is essentially just how fast you can kill somebody in milliseconds. Now, the reason this is important is because even though there's certain ranges where a gun might actually have better damage, that better damage might not really mean anything, because if you think of the difference between like 25 and 26 damage, those are both 4-shot kills. So even though it's a little bit more damage, most of the time it's really not going to have any kind of effect. So if the range is a little bit boosted, but again, the shots to kill is the same, then it really doesn't matter that much. So essentially what we're going to look at now is how much of a benefit the range perk has in terms of the time to kill. Hopefully I've explained this well enough. It is really hard to explain without looking at all the numbers, and I don't want to confuse you guys in this video, but hopefully you guys are kind of tracking along so far. But anyway, in terms of the actual time to kill benefit, the AR with the most time to kill benefit is the HVK30 with 8.1 meters of time to kill benefit.
And then it's the HBR 3 at 7.3, and then the M16 at 7 meters, Manowar 6.3, Hand 44 6.1, LK 5.8, BK 5.1, ASM 10.5, ICR 1 4 meters, AK 47 3.5, M4 3.5, AK 107 2.5, and Type 25 at 2.1 meters.
So what this means is that most of the time, the Type 25 will have no effect from the epic range perk. There is only 2 meters where you would actually notice a difference. Well, not really notice, but just mathematically you would have more of a difference. And same thing with the Type 25, only 2.5 meters of difference, so it's barely any effect. But then if you look at a gun like the HVK30, there's actually 8.1 meters where you'll actually have benefit, so it's quite a bit more benefit overall. Now, I do want to mention that this time to kill comparison is going to be kind of important, but you also have to consider how often you use a gun at a certain range. So, for example, even though the ASM-10 might not have had a lot of benefit from this, you also have to consider that the ASM-10 can 3-shot up to a certain range. And after that, when it can't 3-shot anymore, that gun isn't very good. So you want to try to get that 3-shot range as far as you can. So the ASM-10 is actually another gun that benefits from this perk quite a bit. And the typical AR range is anywhere from like 15 to like 25 meters. So if you have range tiers within that, getting that boost will be nice because you'll experience that range boost quite often. The biggest thing that identifies whether or not a range perk is useful is whether or not it'll happen often. And whether or not it will happen often is dependent on what I said before, and also whether or not you're going to be using the gun at a range where it typically switches. So once again, if a gun is at like 15 meters, it switches to a different damage, then having that boost will be nice because you use ARs around 15 meters quite often. So personally, I think guns like the LK24, KN44, ASM-10, and actually the AK-47 as well, because you can actually 3-shot if you hit a headshot. So if you're someone that likes hitting headshots with the AK-47, it can definitely be nice to have that little range boost on the first range tier where you could kill someone in 3 shots. Once again, if you hit a headshot though. The BK-57 also gains a decent amount of benefit because it actually switches range tiers around where you would fight with the BK-57. And also the HBR-A3, which in my personal opinion, I think gains the most from the purple perk because it switches damages quite often, and it also switches damages quite often in the range that you actually use an AR typically. So I think you'll actually experience the most benefit from the epic perk with the HBR A3, which is also why I think people think it's kind of pay to win too, is because it only has a version with the purple range perk. And as I said, the purple range perk actually is quite helpful on this weapon. And also the HVK 30, if you use it at a little bit longer ranges, the first range goes all the way up to 30 meters. So even if you have the range perk, 0 to 30 meters will be the exact same thing. But after 30 meters, again, you'll gain another couple meters after that, which is nice. So if you're using the HVK at longer ranges, it's beneficial. So to summarize, what I mean by that once again is if you're using a gun at a certain range, and that range is where the damage is like to switch quite often, then I could definitely see it being very useful. Another thing that I should mention too is that the perk applies to a gun, and then if you put a suppressor on, you'll lose negative 30% range. I made a whole video talking about that, but just keep in mind if you have an epic AR, you'll gain that 10% range, and then you'll lose 30% on top of that if you have the suppressor. So there is obviously more I could go into on this topic because once again there's a bunch of numbers and math and all that, but this will basically summarize which guns are good with the range perk and which guns are not very good, and also just kind of help you break down or understand exactly what it is. If you guys want to get more exact numbers, you can go to my website HawksNest.gg, and then you'll be able to actually see the damages over ranges, like a little chart when you select a gun. And then if you wanted to see what it looks like with the epic perk, all you'd have to do is just add 10% to all of those numbers to just step it up a little bit more. In the future, I do actually plan on adding graphics for the epic perk and like the long barrel for SMG, so you can actually visually see what the benefit is. But for now, all you have to know once again is just that it's plus 10% for each range. So with all of that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this quick little video, and make sure to drop a like and a sub down below if you guys did. And with all of that being said, I'll see you guys later. Peace.